What a treat to be here for a conversation, a sweet conversation about the true nature of the undefined centers with Amy Lee. And just a little bit about Amy. I'm sure that some of you know her already, but for those of you who don't, Amy Lee is a 5'1" mental projector, professional analyst, teacher, and Living Your Design Guide trainer with over 25 years of study in consciousness and holistic health. Introduced to human design in 2009, she has since immersed herself deeply in the experiment, all while earning certifications with Human Design America and the IHDS to offer foundation readings, advanced cycle analysis, partnership and family analysis, as well as to teach Living Your Design, Rave ABCs, Rave cartography, and to train new Living Your Design guides. Drawing on additional training in Hakomi body-centered therapy, the recreation of the self model, clairvoyant practices, and spiritual leadership, Amy blends depth of knowledge with intuitive presence to guide others in recognizing both their natural gifts and conditioned patterns. Known for her attunement to the nuances of interpersonal dynamics, she helps clients experience the precision and transformative potential of human design in both the practical and the profound.
Hi, thanks for having me. Thanks for the lovely introduction. It's great to be here with both of you in this context and to be interviewed and to be on this end of things. So thank you. Thanks for having me.
So, you have come to Raw TV with this very, very rich topic. And as a mental projector, I feel like you, with your own experience and everything, just with so much openness, that you could only have an abundance of wisdom to share about the true nature of the undefined centers. So, is there a specific starting point, something that inspires you that you'd like to dive in with today?
Yeah. I think it really is a favorite topic of mine, especially now because I feel like I'm right in the heart of my Chiron return, which just happened in June. And I love cycles. Cycles is probably one of my favorite things to look at. But I didn't really know, and I've read a ton of Chiron returns, but I didn't really know what it would feel like to go through it until now. And one of the things that it has brought up for me is some really deep healing. I mean, some really deep things coming up that I've known about for decades, things that I thought that I'd already worked through and sort of put to bed. But it's been almost like this time of a lot of reflection on, my whole life and remembrances of things from early in my life that I haven't really thought about and that I don't know that I've ever actually deeply experienced, sort of re-experienced and felt kind of coming back out of my body until now. So it's been a really interesting kind of healing and reflective time. And it almost, if I were going to describe it sort of viscerally, I almost feel like all these undefined centers that I have below the throat are sort of being like wrung out on a deeper level, which is how I often think of the deconditioning process. I often, when I'm in session with someone, or if I recognize something or make contact with something, and I see someone start to let go of a conditioned belief or a conditioned position that's lodged in there, there's often this sense of release. And um, so I'm fascinated by this experience of getting to wring out these undefined centers on a deeper level, and also to get to reflect on what it's been like to go through the whole process of, being younger and having no idea what the mechanism of all of this was doing, and then doing a lot of emotional and therapeutic work and navigating my way through that, doing a lot of sort of psycho-spiritual work and navigating through that, and then finding human design having this really mechanical lens through which to look at things.
I don't remember what it was that I was listening to. Maybe it was your most recent podcast episode that you did about inner authority, but you were talking about just this total silence within that's being more and more accessible to you. And we haven't looked at your chart or anything, but you have I mean, you only have individual definition with the channel of awareness going into the channel of structuring, right? And so one of the one of the features of those channels is the pulse. So as you were talking about the centers and the space, I don't know, I could only sense the brilliance behind how much of that could be harnessed through the pause of the pulse.
I love it. I love it. I think it took me until very recently to really value it.
Yeah, that pulse, the waiting out, the waiting for the knowing. I also have the channel of awareness. And growing up, I always thought I was always searching and searching and searching to try to get that knowing. And it wasn't until I was older where I finally started to accept it's okay to not know all the time. Because then when it does come on and that spark comes and suddenly everything makes sense, it's so much better. It's so much sweeter to have that happen. It's magical. And then waiting, human design told me, like, this is just how you are made to be. There's nothing wrong with you. You don't have to know all the time. And it makes it really nice. It gives me more opportunities to take a break and just let myself relax in between.
Yeah.
Similar to what you said about the space, giving yourself space for the things to happen.
Mhm.
Mm.
Yeah, I can really relate to that. I think I feel really similarly about it. And I don't think I could let that be, just let the I don't know space be until I got through whatever hangups I had about being invisible or being not valuable or not contributing or not doing enough. I felt like I had to sort of excavate all that and let all that go, to get to the place where I don't know is good enough. If that's the truth, that's the truth.
So when you said it was a different type of suffering, would you consider that what Ra talks about, no choice, the no choice of suffering, where you just know that there's nothing for you to actually do about these things and you don't have any choice but to just sit with them and see what comes out of that?
Yeah, in a way, I think you could see it that way. I always think of no choice as the definition. When I look at the chart, I tend to think of no choice as sort of the definition, like that's where we run up against, I think what I think and I can't not think what I think. But yeah, I think you might be right, at a deeper level, if the truth is I don't have the energy, then it's I don't have the energy.
Yeah, it's like the surrendering to that suffering. I have a similar thing happen when I'm an emotional projector. When I wait out my clarity and it gets to a point where the clarity is so clear that there's no choice, like there was no choice. This is the way that I was meant to go. And I can't believe I didn't see it before, but now it's so obvious that this is the only way to go. But I
Mhm.
also see it in my open centers too, where there's that surrender to the suffering that is, because my mind thinks that there is definitely a way that I have to go, something that I have to do to make it better. But I don't have the energy for it. So I just sit there and I wait and I observe, and it hurts. And it hurts. So that's how I see new choice in the way that you described it too, with the definition, but I also see it in the openness. It's just the experience of life. Yeah. But at
Mhm.
first, I didn't understand what no choice meant at all. And it's taken 6.5, 7 years to get to that point for me to really see, wow, he was kind of right. I mean, we do have choices, but also we don't.
I love that perspective, Narai. I love that you brought it in because whether it's the undefined centers, whether it's the bridging gates, whether it's the mental conditioners in our chart, there's also no choice as to how that internal narrative is going to be influenced by those factors. It might appear in different ways, like it might show up in different ways because there is flexibility there. We can be nurtured, we can be taking in completely different influences, but at the same time, the potential. And Amy, actually, you and Lavina Archers were two of the single most amazing individuals to help me deal with the mental narrative of what goes on with my undefined sacral and having this hanging this dormant wisdom potential, gate 3, line 5, in detriment as my conscious driving force, my personality moon, and my personality earth. So it's like to understand the mechanics in terms of what the mental conditioners were of that center. And so the way that my mind would really be kind of distorting what it was taking in, and then how it would be expressed through that, especially through that gate. um it was incredible. And also in that, it is an individual gate, the capacity now to be able to sit in that void, to sit in that space, and to actually appreciate the fullness of that space, and that nothing has to be different. How much my mind thinks that something has to be different, and this impatience, when am I gonna get it, when is it gonna land? And just to trust that in right timing it happens.
Yeah, what you were saying, Melanie, is reminding me of this interesting experience of there being times when whether you're talking about those really specific kind of mental hangups, that we each have in our own ways, or for me, just the obsessiveness of my own mind and how repetitive and relentless it can be. To have the experience of being able to let my body be happy and connected to where I am, even when my mind is miserable, or even when my mind is relentlessly attached to whatever it's attached to, has been very, very helpful. Yeah. And then you can, and to build in that kind of space to just see it, like to see that. I always have, like, I call my 6124, I call it my crazy lady in the attic. And that that I can just watch her be crazy, and just pace and be obsessive and relentless, and sometimes see things in the most negative way. But my body can still be happy while that's happening. My body can actually still be relaxed even while that's going on, even if that's going on up there.
Would you say, Amy, in your own deconditioning process, do you find that you have particular sensitivity in, let's just say, one of the centers more so than others, or in some more than others?
I definitely have, I have a completely open solar plexus. So I certainly feel pretty sensitive to emotional energy, although I think perhaps in part because of the feeling cognition, I'm very interested in it. Maybe if I didn't have that, I wouldn't be as interested in the emotional realm as I am. And I do feel like having that center being completely open, I can be interested in it. I can really tell when emotional energy is getting to the point where I'm not going to be able to keep taking it in without kind of amplifying and spitting it back out. But there's probably more neutrality there. I think the one that is probably the most intense is, as Ross said, it is the undefined ego. And for me, I've got the 51 and the 40 in there. The 51 is my personality, earth. And most of my life, most of my relationships have been open ego relationships. Most of my closest friends, my family, partners that I've been with have almost all been undefined ego relationships until the last 8 years, until my Uranus opposition. And so the cool thing, I think, and this also kind of gets back to this, what is the nature of the undefined centers, is that with awareness, I think when there's conditioning going on there, when there's an active conditioning force, it actually can be an opportunity to not only see the not self motivations, like, oh, I feel this ego near me, and now I start feeling like I have to compete or prove myself or something. But I almost feel like the conditioning that comes into an undefined center kind of turns on the processing in that center that you could really just avoid if you didn't have to feel anything pressing on it. But as soon as something starts pressing on it, and I think it gives us the opportunity to start to not only feel what that pressure brings in the moment, but to also experience the entire catalog of the whole history we've ever had of all the moments when that part of us has been pressed on and we felt inadequate. So in a lot of ways, I feel like I didn't have to deal with that, whether consciously, unconsciously, no choice, or because of the timing or the fractal, the trajectory, whatever. I didn't really have to deal with that until about 8 years ago. I mean, it was always there in the background, and I could feel it with strangers and sort of kind of generally about the world. But once it became part of my up close personal daily life, oh wow, now I really got to unearth some of the history and some of the deeper stuff that I had in there from long, early in life that I don't think I really had the opportunity to process. So I think in relationship, it's one of the opportunities we can make contact with if we deal with relationship consciously. Because at a certain stage, we can just say, oh, your defined ego is pressing on me. It's making me feel like I'm not good enough, and now I just want to get away from it. But if I can actually use that a bit and recognize, oh wow, like look at what that kind of pressure can start to activate in me, and what happens to me when I go with that, and what does that do to my body, and what happens to me if I don't, and how do I get to explore how I'm going to have a relationship with this, how I'm going to deal with this, you know? Um, what a great part of the experiment. I wouldn't get to experience that if I stayed away from the ego conditioning, and I wouldn't get my cross either. So